I don't know. We can hear you. All right. Good to know. Good to know. I can't tell on my end from how this is because I'm just doing it over the web. All right. So first, I just want to say thanks. Thanks to all you guys that support me and subscribe and watch my videos and all that. It's huge. Sorry it took so long to do this video. I just kind of kept forgetting to do it. And today I thought about it and I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it today. So here we are. You guys are welcome to ask me whatever you want, and I'll try my best to answer. And that's pretty much all this really is. So it's going to be watching chat, hanging out, and talking, listening to you guys, and that kind of stuff. And whenever this is empty, I'm going to turn off the stream. So that's basically the plan. So with that, yeah, I'm turning it over to you guys. When we watching the text fly in or not fly in. So trying to think here what I can say in the meantime until questions come in of any sort. I don't even know. I'm trying to think what you guys might even ask. I don't even know actually, because I think most people, if they have questions on videos, they ask them in comments on videos. So, but yeah, anything, it's open. Even if it's not about the channel, you can ask about whatever. It's fine. Doing my due diligence. This is the first time I've ever streamed on YouTube. It's kind of interesting. Planning on doing embedded stuff, asked by Broken Heater. I don't have any current plans of doing embedded stuff, but I would like to. The only reason really is because I don't work on anything embedded currently. Usually I sort of do videos based off of what I'm currently learning or working on or what I already know. And I guess I know a little bit about embedded, but I don't really have anything to practice on and make sure I'm actually saying things correctly. But if I ever get some device that requires being programmed, I probably will. I'll probably talk about it at least a little. I did some in school. Did some labs with embedded stuff, and it was pretty neat. It's fun enough. But yeah, I'd like to. I just don't really have a good thing to practice on right now. Did I go to university? Yes, I did. I went to 2 universities. It's kind of a bit of a story if I say the whole thing, but I'll just make it brief. So right out of high school, I went to DeVry University for a couple semesters, and I went for electronic engineering at first, and then I switched to computer science. And I didn't like it at all. I did not really enjoy my time at DeVry University. So I quit after a few semesters. Just wasn't feeling it. But after that, I just basically worked mostly in IT for the next 10 years. Then I went to Ohio University for computer science, and this time was by choice. When I went to DeVry, it was not by choice. I was kind of just forced to go, and I just wasn't into it. Although it was all right, I guess, in some ways. Like I got introduced to what programming was because I didn't really experience that when I was a kid. But when I went later to Ohio University, I was all about it. Like my main goal was basically to become a programmer so I could build stuff that I wanted to build. So I was very into all the programming classes, focused hard on them. Did pretty good on them. Did terrible in a lot of the other classes because I just didn't care. Like my English class, I was like, I don't care. I'll show up, but that's not what I'm here for. So I'm only doing it because it's required. And same with a lot of other classes. I was that kid that showed up and just did the homework and stuff as quickly as possible in the other classes. But on the computer science classes, I studied hard and worked hard on those. So, and yeah, graduated in 2018. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I went. I learned a ton of stuff I didn't know. It was like a lot of eye-opening experiences as far as computer tech. Like I thought I was good with computers and still until I started studying computer science, and then I realized like how much I didn't know. So it was pretty cool just to have that. I didn't really have anyone around me in my life growing up that was interested in computers. Like my dad was a farmer, my mom was like a stay-at-home mom, so I just didn't get any experience unless I went out and got it myself. I guess my dad was actually an agricultural engineer, to be more technical. He went to school for that. But yeah, good times. Met a lot of cool people in university. That was something I didn't really anticipate. Program and C++ exclusively. I appreciate these questions, by the way, Broken Heater. You're keeping the stream alive, or lively, rather. This cup is keeping it alive. Program and C++ exclusively. The short answer is yes, and the long answer is no, because I strongly, strongly prefer C++. So if I'm ever given a choice of like you can code in whatever language you want, I always choose C++. But it's not entirely exclusive. I've programmed in other languages. I built software in other languages. So I just don't get as into them. I usually just figure out enough to get whatever I'm working on done. But with C++, I study it in the ins and outs and everything. So I know it a lot better. That's why I basically talk about it. If I were to talk about some other language, I wouldn't know. I would be lost a lot. And I would be like, I got to look up stuff all the time, make sure I'm saying it correctly. With C++, I can just kind of wing it a little better since I've studied it so much. C++ with double hearts. Yeah, I love it. I just love that it's so versatile and that you can do anything. I guess that's somewhat true for other languages, but with C++, you can like make it really efficient. Like no matter what you're doing, you can get like maximum efficiency. And I really, really like that. And since I was basically studying programming to make games, and you have to make them highly optimized these days, it just made sense to go deep. Yeah. Zero overhead principle. Yeah. I think that's one of the main things it was created with, according to Bjarne Stroustrup. Rust is better. I have no idea. I've heard Rust is all right. I don't know if it's better. I don't know. I guess I would default to the answer of no. Like it might be better at some things. Like might be better, or it might be easier to memory manage in Rust or something. But it's not particularly hard to begin with if you just kind of know what to look for and stuff. It's only hard when you're new to it. And once you like understand what you have to do to manage memory, it's not particularly hard. It's as simple as like think about like taking something out of the fridge. You take the milk out of the fridge, you eventually got to put it back in. It's basically that. It's like once you get kind of used to that, it's more complicated than that. It's highly simplified. But I don't really program in Rust. I know it's like the fad right now. I don't really have a reason to. I don't have anything against Rust. It's just if I ask myself, why would I use Rust to do this instead of C++? And I don't really have a reason, so I don't. Seems good though. I don't. It reminds me of like in school we programmed with OCaml. I don't know if you've ever heard of OCaml. I'll type in chat in case you don't know. It's a lot like OCaml. That's what it made me like. Just looking at the syntax, I'm like, oh, this is basically OCaml. It's a very type specific language. Everything has to be properly typed or else. And that's like their main thing. I guess I don't know what else Rust does. I'm really not qualified to talk about Rust. Honestly, I don't use it. I just see people's headlines about it. I use Rust to do this or that, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. Opinion on Python? I like Python. I don't really have any problems with Python. Python's cool because you can do stuff super quick without worrying about a lot of syntax really. Uh, a way one of my friends put it when he was loving Python is with Python, you can literally open up your text editor and just make lines of comments of what you want your program to do, and then you just change those comments into the actual Python code, and it just works. um, I don't use Python a whole lot because I would just use C++ instead in general, but it seems all right. It seems if you're really good with Python and you're really good with C++, and you just want to get something working with like within an hour, you need to get it as far along as possible. Python would probably be a little better. Because with C++, you inevitably end up messing with like a lot of libraries and making sure a lot of stuff is lined up correctly, which takes a little more time, but C++ is way faster than Python from a runtime standpoint. All right. Thanks for the thing. I wish I could get the comments on screen. I don't know. I don't really have a way to do that with the way this is. Karna, Aaron says, I took a graphics course last semester and your videos helped me set up OpenGL dev environment. Thanks. You're welcome. Have you done 3D object rendering? Yeah, I've done that quite a bit. That's generally what I work on most days is 3D object stuff. I'm a novice with 3D, like when it comes to designing stuff. But yeah, I'm making a 3D game right now, so I'm always kind of messing with it and learning more about it. New Year's plans, don't have anything major. I'm kind of starting to make plans for the next year and general stuff I want to do. But I don't really have specific plans. I guess I really want to get a networking tutorial going, and I really want to get like a, I guess threading and networking. Those are the big things that I want to get on the channel next year. All right, going down the line here. I'll get to all your questions. Don't worry. I look at other programming language and I just can't. Says Nookvlek. I keep coming back to C++. Exactly. That's exactly what happens to me. I try to do another language and I'm just like, I'm going back to C++. They say it's hard, but it feels easier to me. Harry says the place I work at is trying to migrate code from C++ to Rust, basically to help less worry about memory, but still fast. Cool. Be curious to hear how that goes in the long run. World Shaper says, hey, thanks for doing this. You're welcome. LM says, do you prefer working Windows, Linux, or Mac? That's actually a really tough question for me to answer. I always end up working on Windows just because it saves me a lot of time, basically. I really, really like working on Linux and Mac too. I really enjoy it. It's just I always run into these scenarios where I get stuck and I like can't fix it. But on Windows, it's just ready to go. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going back to Windows so I can move on. That always happens. But I really love Linux and Mac. For console stuff, I'd highly prefer Linux and Mac, definitely. But anything with graphical interface, I'd rather do Windows. That's kind of how it works for me. Yashwant Patil says, what's the best way to learn Boost libraries? How about doing a video on those? That's a good question. I'd say the best way is to just start using them. The Boost libraries are interesting. I haven't used them a ton. I used to use them, but like the most used features in the Boost library usually get put in the standard. So I used to use Boost for like file system, and then I just put it in the standard, so I didn't have to use them anymore. But yeah, I would just say practice using them. Like I'd have to even look what all they have anymore, but keep it simple. Use one at a time. Just use what you need. And yeah, I can maybe do specific videos on certain ones, but yeah, I'd have to have some idea to go off of, I guess. All right. Okay, let's see, on the topic of the C++, the Rust from Karna, Aaron, translating the matrix math code is really tough. Like creating the Bezier curves. Interesting. Yeah, I believe it. World Shaper asks, is it still worth programming neurons and C++ in your view? Is it still worth programming? I mean, it really depends on the person. I think if you want to program, man, I don't know how to answer that really. Just, yeah. I love programming, so it's always worth it for me. But if it's like, I don't know, some people like program out of necessity and they really don't like it. So I would say in that case, maybe it's not worth it if you really don't enjoy it. But that's really up to each person, I think. Yeah, that's kind of a hard one to dig into. Tips on what kind of projects can build to get a job as a graphics programmer, CS with decent C++. Also, thanks for your work. Okay. That's from Kyril Karenkno. Sorry if I mispronounced names. Cool. You're welcome. I'm happy to be helpful. Let's see. Kind of projects. I think really, this is a tough question, but I think I know how to simplify the answer. Basically, you want to get really good at the main features that graphics libraries offer. Like start with OpenGL, kind of learn all the basic graphics techniques, understand how the vertices and indices and normals work, and lighting. It's kind of a big thing. But basically, you'd probably want to get really good with understanding all the possibilities of what you can do with graphics and shaders. So shaders are going to be big there too. Learn OpenGL is a really nice starting point. Going through that will get you a huge head start with all the basics and a lot of the industry stuff. And it's OpenGL, but it doesn't matter because like the math and the techniques transfer to any renderer. So definitely a nice free resource there that it helped me a ton at points. But okay, but on the topic of getting a job as a graphics programmer, sure, you can learn all this stuff, but no one's going to hire you unless they really like your resume. So resumes can be tricky to do right for programming. Basically, you want to take like one of your best projects and make like a highlight reel of cool features. You want someone to be able to look at a 30-second video of your stuff and be like, okay, this guy could do some cool stuff. Because if you convolute it with a bunch of little projects, companies will be like, I can't tell what you're good at, basically. So I would say do something like that. Can you make a 3D OpenGL graphics course? I would like to. Maybe I can work on some. I did. I don't know if many people have seen it. Didn't get super popular, but I did a OpenGL course for a while. I think I got 11 episodes in or so. There should be a lot of 3D ones. The Cherno has one, an OpenGL playlist. I don't know. I had a hard time watching all the episodes, but I tried to keep up with his. I feel like most of them are too long and dry, and I felt even that way about mine, maybe. But yeah, I could analyze that and see what I could do. I can't make any big promises though. Like, I don't know. It's just like there's just so much. Like, where do you leave off when you start making those? It's like a year long. Oh, also OGL Dev. OGL Dev does a bunch of really great OpenGL tutorials too. So they're out there. They do exist on YouTube. Joshua Patel says shared pointer tutorial seems easy to understand, but not sure which real use case it would be useful. Any clues? Shared pointer is basically if you're passing the pointer all over the place and you don't want to have to worry about. Okay, let me try to simplify this down because if I just say what I'm thinking, it's not going to make sense. Like, okay, so the point of a shared pointer is it keeps track of how many people are using it. So you first instantiate it somewhere, and then if like you have some other class or object that wants that same pointer, you give it to it as well. And you don't really have to worry about when it gets deleted because it keeps references, and whenever the reference count is 0, that's when it deletes. So if you're having to track a bunch of different places where a pointer is going, shared pointer might be a good case for it if like a bunch of things are using it at once, basically. So it's pretty handy. Whereas with a unique pointer, only one thing can use it at once. So that's the big difference. I don't use them a ton anymore, actually. I just manually keep track of it. I don't know. For me, in my head, it works better if I just use raw pointers. But I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the best thing to do. It's just what I do sometimes. Best is Learn OpenGL book. Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good. Really enjoyed your pointer to implementation video. Oh, the pimple. Pretty useful. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. The pimple. I use it quite frequently. Let's see what else we got. Videos offer a lot of value. It sure takes a lot of time and work. Thanks for the tutorial, especially CMake. You're welcome. You're welcome, Lewis Vills. Nathan asks, what are your favorite programming books? Good question. Good question. I have two that I tend to read when I'm bored or when I'm going somewhere and know that I'm going to be sitting there talking to no one. Let me just show you. I'll get them real quick. Hold on. All right. This one put me miles ahead at one point. Bjorn Stroop's programming principles and practice using C++. He explains like everything you can do with C++ in this book. It is awesome. I'll leave affiliate links to these down below later, if I remember. This one was from an AI class. Man, it's reversed, isn't it? It's just AI by Charles Luger. It's not necessarily the best AI book out there, but this will teach you a lot about this graph theory and basically that kind of stuff. It's pretty good. And this one's free online. It's the Robert Nystrom's game programming patterns. These are the three I own that I peruse through all the time, but there are a lot of good ones. All right, let's see. All right, I tried to make that as quick as possible so I could still have time to do other ones. Okay, where did I leave off? Yeah, those are my favorite right now. I really want to get the Programming Black Book from I think it's about Doom and all the stuff used to program Doom originally. That's one I really want to get, but I just haven't gotten yet. So I don't have an opinion on it yet, but I've heard it's really, really cool. All right, the Cherno touches on 3D, but doesn't go into normals, lighting, shading too deep. Oh, okay, I see. All right. Thanks, Karna. Best of luck to you as well and everyone. Someone recommends Computer Graphics Programming and OpenGL with C++ by Clevenger and Gordon. Okay. I haven't heard that one yet, but it's fairly recent. It might be updated with a lot of new stuff. Oh, so these aren't you can like read this lettering properly. It's not reversed for you guys. On my sample screen, it's reversed. It's mirrored. But if it isn't for you guys, then cool. There are two semi-different muscles for building a big probs, and so your thoughts, which is more valuable in the 21st? Hold on, let me make sure I can read this question right. If there are two semi-different muscles for building a big problem, and so I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Hey, do you ever end up comparing your progress to others, and how do you stop that from discouraging you? That's an excellent question. That's a really good question. And I'm trying to think how to answer it well, because I know my answer is not going to work for other people. No problem, World Shaper. Yeah, I think I half get the question, but I don't really know how to quite answer. But yeah, if you can. Okay, so Ankeet, to answer your question about comparing your progress to others and how to keep that from discouraging you. Like I have a technique, but I'm kind of afraid to share my technique because I don't want other people to necessarily do this. I don't know if it's a particularly healthy or well adjusted way of doing it. But basically, I go into like a mode of thought where I stop caring. And see that's why it's like that's something you don't want to say, right? You don't want to say stop caring. But that's basically what I do. I look at other people's awesome stuff. I'll learn from it and I'll say that's cool. And then the feeling creeps up that like I'm never going to get there, that kind of feeling. And that feels discouraging. And I just say, too bad. Too bad feelings. I don't care about you. You're not right. So it's just kind of like it's a very beat myself up approach, but it's like beat this myself up that's already beaten myself up. So it's like this internal fight of, I don't know. It doesn't make it's hard to explain, but it's something like that. I basically just stop caring and and I use like another part of me to fight the other part of me, and it just turns into this like mush of all right, look, what can I work on? Who cares about what they're doing? What can I work on? And eventually, I'll get you kind of get there. So that's my weird technique of not comparing myself to others. I love watching what other people do, and I do have that feeling of man, they're so much further ahead, and usually it's like math stuff. It's like they're doing all this cool stuff, like flying around the world with planes, and I'm like, I have no clue how to do that, but I'll watch your video and think it's cool, and I don't know. All right, I'll move on. But I think the important thing to do is just make the steps that you can make. It's really good when you see that kind of stuff to like take notes of what they're doing that you can't do and come back to that and like look at that and be like, okay, what are the steps to get good at this thing that I felt like I couldn't do? And you can start taking those little steps to get there. So I think that's about all we can do, really. All right. Building a big okay, I'll wait a little bit. Yeah, see if that works, then awesome. But yeah, I was kind of scared to share that because I think it's such a I don't know if other people would even accept that or think it's weird, but that's kind of just how it works for me. Also, I might trying to think about how to say this part. I think I have I don't know how to word this. I definitely have some kind of God, I don't know how to say this. Like when it comes to C++ and programming, I just know what I want to do and like it's more of the end goal. I don't really even care about the little steps in between. It's like I'll do anything to get there kind of thing. And it's sort of like an insane psychopathic strategy to see like I want to make a huge awesome game. And there's all this stuff blocking it like, "Oh, you got to get good at this and this and this." And I'm like, "I don't care. I don't care what it takes. I'm doing it." It's like just a crazy I said that in an interview once too, and I got the job. They're like, "What makes you like C++?" And I think I looked at him. I said, "Insanity." Uh, I couldn't believe I got that job. But all right. Okay, the question from earlier that I wasn't sure. World Shaper says, "What's more important, building a big project or solving small but considered hard problems and inventing math and leak code problems?" I definitely feel like you need both. Definitely feel like you need both. Building a big project, I guess. Like, what's a big project for you? Like a multifaceted, does a bunch of things type project, or like a big. I don't know. I guess it depends on your definition of big project. I think building a big project is super important because you learn how to intertwine a bunch of pieces together. Like you learn how to store stuff long term in your program and then bring it up later or save it and bring it up later. And you learn how to do all these little things that require like specific design. And it basically like forces you to think in a way that that scales well. And it's really hard at first and it might take you a few tries, but if you like keep coming back to it, you start realizing new stuff. At least that's how it was for me. I haven't built anything super huge, but like all the projects I got in school, they were all relatively small. You could do them single file or something, they kind of just did one thing. But the first big project I did on my own was DM Power, and it had to do like a ton of stuff. And it took me like 4 or 5 tries before I got the structure right. I just kept having to delete everything and start over. But once I got it all right and it was all working, I was like, I did it basically over a summer while we didn't have school. And I came back to school in the next semester, and I was like miles ahead of my peers. Like I basically felt like they were all noobs and I had to teach them everything. And it was just from doing that one project on the side that did a bunch of stuff that I had to fail at a bunch of times and start over and figure out the structure. Like it just put me so far ahead of everyone else. And that was really interesting though, because I was like, I didn't necessarily feel like I was the best coder in my classes. But after that, like after that one summer of building that big project, big for me at the time, I was so much better. But in solving the small problems, I'd say those are important too. They come up usually, and when you're building stuff, I don't know. I don't really know how to. I usually like solve the problems that come up. I rarely go look for problems. I usually just like if a problem comes up, I learn how to solve it. But if it never comes up, I don't go like search it out. So I feel like maybe doing the smaller hard problems are kind of like like specific reps. Like you go to a gym and do curls or something, you're working on a specific muscle. So they're probably more like that, I guess. I don't know. It's definitely good to know them. Like all those main algorithms in the leak code, if you know those, it makes a huge difference because stuff will come up where you need to know how to do it quickly, and you'll be like, oh, this is like the same pattern. From what I understand with those leak code patterns, there's like 10 or so main patterns, and they just keep reappearing over and over. So once you kind of know all of those, you should be pretty good. So you don't necessarily have to do the small hard problems forever. They're probably good just to like get an initial feel for them. So I think building a big project is more important in my view going forward, because that's how you make real software. You gotta solve big, you gotta tie a bunch of things together. And that's more important than if your for loop is fast enough, because you can always fix your for loop later. But if you've got things structured in a way that doesn't make sense, that's really hard to fix later. That's just an exaggeration, but all right. Next, some nerd asked, DOP versus OOP. Are you strong on either? I guess I'm strong on OOP, but I have no idea what DOP is. Dynamic something programming? I don't even know what DOP is. I don't think I've ever heard of that. You have to let me know. Data oriented programming. Okay. Oh yeah. I used a ton of DOP in my Archer engine. Like everything in there is DOP pretty much, from what I understand. But I've never specifically studied it. I was just doing things in a way, and then I noticed later that that's a data oriented way. It's basically everything operates on how much data you have in the engine. So I don't know. I guess I'm okay at both. Probably better at OOP, but I don't really think about it too much, really, I guess. Health question. How do you deal with stress and frustration? Frustration tolerance has dropped for me after years of school. Good question. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. How do I deal with stress? I usually try to address it, I think, is the big thing. If someone or something is really stressing me out, I usually cut it off, I think, is the big thing, which might not be healthy. And you can't do that with everything, I understand. So I think the best thing you can do is try to understand the problem that's causing the stress. And it could be anything. It could be like, I don't know, I'll just bring up a random example. Like when I was in school, I had a young kid, and sometimes when I was trying to study or get work done, he like really wanted to play. And that was like fine. But I just basically had to, um, it was like stressful to me because it was like, I got this thing due, got to turn it in by 7 o'clock. I don't have time to play, kid. I'm sorry. And he would be like, come on, and it was hard and it was stressful. But basically I had to like I had to like analyze and find solutions. So sometimes I just like call up someone that had kids and I was like, hey, can you come, like, can you just bring your kids and like come hang out with my kid for a while? Stuff like that. I was just like, just try to find a way, or I would take him to another family and be like, all right, I gotta go. I got stuff to do. It's due soon. So I think just analyzing the problem, like realizing that it's stressful and like telling somebody that cares, but in like the nicest way you can and help them kind of get them to understand your plight. Cause it was always like, hey, I got this thing due. My kid really needs attention, but I can't really give it to him or I'm going to fail this thing. And I'm put in between a rock and a hard place. If I had to choose, I'm going to choose family, but I'm paying a lot of money to go to school. So like, what do I do? So a lot of times it was like, I would call someone and be like, and just let them know. And if you can do it heads up, if you do it last minute, it doesn't really work. But if you can see that, like, oh, I got to spend a lot of time on this, let's plan ahead. Planning ahead makes a big deal for dealing with stress. Just knowing that the stressful situation's coming up, so you can kind of prepare. That helps. But I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. And given specific examples, I might be able to answer a little better. But I don't really feel a whole lot of stress with with things anymore, I guess. I mean, I do at times, but it's different. I don't know. I'd have to give very specific things. I don't know if I want to get too specific. But generally, it's something like that. It's just like realizing that there's a stressful situation ahead and kind of planning the best I can to mitigate it. Like if you got a hard math test, you study the most you can the day before, that kind of thing. And it makes it less stressful, stuff like that. That's the best I can do, I think, now. How should one brush up their OOP? Definitely practice. Just work with. That's probably not a good answer off the top, right? Just practice. Everyone knows that, but find something to work on. That's OOP, and maybe build something from scratch where you got a bunch of different objects and they all talk together in one main program or something. Or one borrows from the other, and try to like understand those concepts of, oh, I'm borrowing this object and things like that. Because like the more you do it, the more you understand kind of what to do with the memory and the data in the objects, if you will. From what I see, DOP is about keeping data and code separate, while OOP is more about polymorphism and having to code and data together. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can make sense of that. Yeah, I think my brain is oriented towards DOP because I like having big sections of data and then feeding that to code. The whole polymorphism thing did not come naturally to me. I really had to study that to figure it out. I mean, like the basic concept of it is simple, but like in my design patterns, it's all polymorphism pretty much. Like none of that just came automatically to me. I had to like really study it to put that all together. Thank you for your thoughtful answer. World Shaper says, oh, you're welcome. Cool. Do you work on consulting projects on the side? Occasionally, they come and go. Yeah, mostly it's just a lot of side teaching and stuff. So a lot of various sessions with often people new to coding and stuff, just helping them along, doing a session here and there. A few projects, not many projects recently, but I've done quite a few in the past. Those are side projects from other people. They're often very convoluted and just too much work. Like a lot of times someone will be like, oh, can you help me with this? And I want to, but then when I get into it, I'm like, this is going to take me months. And they're only offering like $100. And it's like, I can't, I just can't. I can spend a couple hours on it, but I'm not going to get much done in a couple hours other than starting to understand what the project actually, how it works, So consulting's weird. I don't think I have a good front end setup of how to, um, I guess, plug for consulting stuff. I want to try to work on that in the new year. I know YouTube is more of a side project. What do you do as your main job? Good question. I've had, well, there's no good way for me to answer this. I basically just work on my game engine as my main job, and it doesn't really pay anything right now. So I'm not exactly making a ton of money or anything. I make enough to survive based on side projects, YouTube, and a couple other small things. So it's like probably have about 8 or so small revenue incomes. Some of them a little bigger than others. So with all those combined, I typically make enough to pay my bills and save a little. And I worked at a university for about 10 years. And I worked at a couple other pretty big places for a couple years. Well, not quite a couple years, but I was able to save up from a lot of those. So not exactly struggling, but I'm also not making a ton. So I'm kind of fine to work on my game for about another year, I think. And hopefully I plan on releasing it at the end of 2023. So hopefully that generates yet another stream of income and helps me keep going. But that's basically what I do for the most part. I was looking for a few jobs here and there, but there's not much locally in my area. I live in kind of a rural place, which I like because it's very peaceful and nice. But there's not a whole lot of opportunities around my area for coders anyway. So I was considering starting up some kind of game studio. So I might do something like that. It's on the back burner. Hope that answers it well enough. What is your tolerance of distraction and maintaining focus? How do you respect your focus? How much do you think others respect your focus? Oh God, focus is hard for me. It's definitely very easy for me to like open up YouTube and start watching like various things that aren't important and like forget to code for like an hour or two. So usually what I have to do if I really want to focus is I have to sit down that day and make a plan early on and be like, okay, today I'm going to fix this part of my code or work on this. And I have to start Pomodoro app and put on some classical music. I tried like heavy music, like synthwave and stuff, and that's all right for about 30 minutes. But after that, it starts to become fatiguing. But like light classical music helps me focus. And starting the Pomodoro app, Pomodoros for about 50 minutes with coding, and then taking 5 to 10 minute breaks. That seems to work pretty well for me because I can really get into a problem in 50 minutes. And then the 10-minute break, I'll go get a drink. I'll work out a little bit, stretch, come back another 50 minutes, work on the problem. That seems to work pretty good for my focus. I have to turn off YouTube. I can't have a video on the side. A lot of people code with videos on the side. That makes it impossible for me to get anything done. I can sit there for 8 hours with my editor right in front of me. And if there's like a distracting video on the side, I will get nothing done. So I really have to cut that off. And there's no good way because my brain like wants it. It's like, have some extra stuff. And it's like, that doesn't work. I find I can't focus well enough on multifaceted problems. It's like they say your brain can only remember 7 things. You can only focus on 7 things at a time. So I think when you're watching a video on the side, that counts as like 3 because you get audio, you get video, and like both of those take processing, and then maybe something else. So you're like almost half your brain power, and it's like that's no good. I can't go half brain power and do this hard code stuff. So it's just really kind of cutting that off helps me. That's the big thing in the Pomodoro stuff. Find myself giving into compulsions to check social media. Yeah, I have that problem too. I'm always like popping open Twitter, Discord, and Facebook, anything new, and oh yeah, that wrecks me too. It's the same concept with YouTube. I just have to cut it off. Usually, what I do is I close all my browsers except for like one tab, maybe playing light classical music, and I'll have another instance of a new window, and it's specifically for only looking up documentation, no social media allowed. I usually close Discord, or I have all my servers muted on Discord. I'll go check them when I have time to check them. I don't want notifications or beeps. No notifications, no beeps. Very strict on that too. If I'm working, there can't be any of that. The only ones I allow are my text messages and phone calls, because they could be important, but everything else is no. If I have them on, I won't get anything done. That's just coming to the reality of, if I have that stuff up or on, I won't get anything done. And it's like I have to make the choice. Do I want to get stuff done, or do I want to check media? And it's like I got to choose. I can't do both. And that's what I've noticed anyway. Hope that helps. Yeah, flow state's important. The Pomodoro, 50-minute Pomodoros, and during that 50 minutes, be really strict. Like if you catch yourself starting to open social media, you'll just be like, no, cut it off. Only documentation allowed. What am I working on? For me, actually, this is a crazy thing that helps with the focus. If I really want to get something done that day, I just open up a blank notepad and I literally write one thing at the top, and I just put it, the line of the one thing I want to get done today. Like today, it was a capsule physics collider for my player class to move around as a capsule collider. That was the one thing I wanted to get done today, and that's the one thing on my list. And it's like that's all I'm focusing on, and I got it done. It's done. It works. Finally. But I literally had to put that as the one thing on my list for today to get it done. And I had to look up a ton of stuff and learn a ton of stuff to actually get it right. It took some tricks. All right. I'll keep going. I'm a little behind, so I'm going to try to go faster. Scott Cross says a huge thank you as a CS major. You're welcome. Glad I could be helpful. Acnan says, please upload the CMA. Yeah, I'll upload it. I'll just put it on the channel as a video. It's fine. Kyril says, I completely left social media besides professional stuff. Not a bad strat, I guess. Everyone's different, though. I almost deleted Facebook yesterday, actually. I was like, do I just delete this? But I can't bring myself quite to do it. So what I did instead is I made everything, all my details private, all my interests, all my work history, all my where you moved, like everything about me, just private. Online status disabled. So even if I am looking at it, no one's going to be like, oh, Matt's online, let me message him. That doesn't happen anymore because I'm just full private. But the only thing I left open is people can send me friend requests. That's the one thing you can do. Well, you can message me if you're a friend or whatever, but for some reason that helped. Like that felt good, because the main reason I wanted to delete it was just privacy concerns. And I was like, well, if I just make everything unavailable, and it feels kind of like Discord or something when you do that. You just turn everything else off, the whole profile features. So that felt nice, and that seemed to help me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about leaving social media entirely. I mean, you can if you want to. I don't think there's anything wrong with leaving it, but if you get use out of it, or if you're a public figure, you kind of got to have something. Fascinating how intuitive OOP seems to be, but it still takes years to do well. Agreed. You worked for a uni for 10 years while you look 26. I'm turning 39 in January. So I'm a little older than I look, I guess. Or a little younger than I look. I said that backwards. But yeah, I worked at an IT desk at a university for about 10 years total. The first couple of years were contract. I used to repair laptops and optimize laptop builds and stuff. Did that for a while, and then I switched to a desk because it paid more and had insurance, and saved up a bunch there. Basically, I saved up enough to actually go to school, and that's where I transitioned into computer science, which is I decided I really wanted to do after studying some more. Game studio sounds cool. I love Pomodoro. Music is great. Celtic music. Yeah, maybe I could see Celtic. Is it Celtic or Celtic? I don't know. All right. I listened to Half-Life 1's Guns and Riffs extended version. I'll have to check that out. Arcbold asked, do you ever ask for help, advice from fellow coders when you're stuck on a task or just barrage on your own? Is feedback important to you? That's a good question. I don't really have anyone to ask. I know it sounds weird, but I mean, I can ask around some in like my Discord or a few other coder friends, but like everyone I went to school with, I don't know any of them anymore that are still doing like serious coding. Most of them went on to kind of menial. Oh, well, not necessarily menial. Most of them went on to some kind of industry job that doesn't involve coding, oddly enough. So I don't really have a whole lot of coder friends that are at the same level as me that I can actually ask. Usually if I'm asking, they'll say, I don't know. That's a hard problem. So I usually just Google it to death. I just Google and dig and try and practice and scrap code and redo it. And eventually I'll figure it out. I do that all the time. That's what I did with this whole physics thing. It took me 3 days because I was using, physics has a PX controller class thing. And I thought, oh, a player controller class in physics. Perfect. Let's use that. That's not the thing you use for a player controller. And how would you ever figure that out? It's literally called a player controller, but it's not the right thing to use. So I was digging, like, how do you make this player controller be affected by gravity and all this stuff? And no one had an answer. And I was like, what? How does no one have an answer for this? I don't get it. And then I just found out that you don't use that. That's for like flying cameras that clip through walls and stuff. That's the only time you use that, not for actual player characters. And I was just like, but yeah, no one on the internet seemed to know that. So, all right. Is feedback important to you? Somewhat. I don't know. I don't know how to. Feedback is, you got to be very careful with feedback because most, I'm going to be careful how I word this. I'll say half of the people that give you feedback don't even know what they're talking about. So you shouldn't be listening to them. So you got to be very careful about whose feedback you listen to. Very careful. Most people will just lead you astray. Like I have this just random quick example, trying to make it quick. I play Magic the Gathering, and I play a lot of Legacy recently, which is like a old Eternal format. And it's very competitive. Most people that play in it are like super good at the game. So it's rather challenging. And I have this friend I've always played Magic with. And I was like, hey, I'm playing, I just kind of mentioned that I'm playing a lot of Legacy. If anyone else wants to practice, let me know. And he just started chatting me up about it, giving me all this advice. But he doesn't even play Legacy. And he started like recommending me cards that are banned. And I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're trying to get me to play banned cards. I would literally get game losses and kicked out of tournaments if I listened to you. So it's just to say, you don't listen to everyone. They often don't know what they're talking about. So it's tricky. I don't know. That's something that just happened recently. My mind was blown. I'm like, are you seriously trying to get me to play banned cards? Come on, just go do your research or something. All right. Very good. Some nerd says, I think your video prevents me from doing I think videos prevent me from doing deep problem solving, like the multifaceted problems. Yeah, the distraction from videos is real. I can only do shallow work. Yep, I feel that. Like if you just got to like drag around interface elements and make them look pretty, or you're drawing something, I think it's kind of okay. But when you're like trying to solve a bunch of things, it's just using up too much of your bandwidth. Building a big project in a subjective view would be something I have been dreaming about building. Come up with a design and try to build it. Moving home theater project around 4 sides of my room. Wow, it's epic. Project on opposite sides of my body position. That sounds very complicated, but cool. Thanks, some nerd. Says going to sleep now. Enjoy your rest. Arcbold says, thanks for the content. Randomly found you while learning CMake. Stayed for great videos. Welcome. Guides are both thorough and entertaining. Thank you. Arduino server. Oh, for the moving projector, Arduino server motors, belt that can create motion. Cool. First phase of the project. Cool. Well, yeah, that sounds like an interesting project. I did with this the same with LinkedIn. All right, now LinkedIn is a different thing. I honestly think all coders should delete LinkedIn. That's just my personal opinion. I don't really have anything directly against LinkedIn. It's just that like it's so spammy. It's worse than, and it's like, I don't know. For me at least, like I would be absolutely amazed if I ever got any sort of actual job lead from LinkedIn. It's always just like a bunch of recruiters spamming you with stuff. And if you say like, okay, I'm interested to any of them, they like either don't answer or they like waste your time. They'll say like, okay, send me this and this. And then they like don't respond. I don't know. I've never had a good experience with LinkedIn. I deleted it. I deleted my LinkedIn. I noped out of that one. Last comment from some nerd. I try to log out of social media and increase friction of checking it, but now I'm asleep. Okay. Yeah, do what you got to do. Joshua said, you're a hero. Your story is great. How you taught yourself. Keep up the good work and good luck with everything. Looking forward to what you do. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad I'm inspiring people. I never intended to do this. I never planned on like, I don't know. It's just interesting that people look up to me because I just wanted to make the games that I kind of like tried to design when I was a kid, basically. That was really all my goal was. And it was such a frustrating experience getting started, basically, because like I felt like the material to get started wasn't out there. And that's why I started making the YouTube videos. I'm like, I finally figured this literally took me all day to figure out some random concept. And I couldn't find anything on the internet. I'm just going to record a video about it and just put it up. And then that was it. I was like, I didn't really expect anyone to latch on or like get, well, I kind of expected some people to be helped by it because I was in the situation where it was like, I wished I could have found this video I'm making right now. And that was all it was, really. I was just trying to kind of help some people get started as well. And it's kind of cool that it's grown to this and there's community and it's awesome. It's changed my life. Absolutely. And I just really appreciate you guys and just want to keep providing useful stuff more than anything. Is just like, I have this deep desire to be useful, I guess, in some way. And I'm always frustrated when there's like very easy things to do, but no one teaching it. And it's like, this is so easy and useful, but nobody knows how to do it. Why not? Let's make a quick video about it. Let's teach people. All right. Would you be able to do a video about start to finish, world project, for example, structure, GitHub layout, best practices? Yeah, that would be a good one. I've considered doing something like that. It's the problem. The only problem with that is it's like it's too big of a thing. I think I have a video called C++ Crash Course. That might be the best I can kind of do, really. Because if I start doing a real project, it's just too in the weeds. Like there's too many days of like just figuring out things that aren't exactly entertaining. And it's really hard to like condense that into a video. And then the problem there is often making the video takes more time than doing the actual code. So it's like, for me, it's like, I finally got this done. I'm ready to move on. But if I have to make a video on the subject, it's like, oh, now I can't move on. I got to make a video first. So it really kind of messes up my real world project idea if I start making videos on it. That's why I'm not making videos on my current game, is specifically because of that. Because if I made a video on everything I got done, I would have a really hard time getting further in the game. It would just like basically double the development time, and I can't do that. But I do plan on making a few like little things here and there about it, which I kind of have already, but I plan on making a few more of those, but nothing like super deep because it's just too much. Saw your video. We're live and jumped in. You apply for some job positions? I've applied for a few, not many. I guess no. Actually, I didn't apply. That's kind of a lie. I answered a few emails from recruiters. I didn't apply. I just said, this sounds interesting to an email. That's all I did. And, talked with them a bit. So I don't know if that's counts as applying or not. I guess I applied to a few like a couple years ago, and then stuff happened and I couldn't even go forward anyway. Like I applied, I think the company John Deere, I applied to them and wrote a whole cover letter, and someone contacted me and they were interested, and I was in a place where I couldn't do it anyway. So I just didn't respond, and I felt bad and did not respond after putting in all that effort. So I kind of just stopped after that. I was like, well, by the time they got back to me, I was in a different place and wouldn't do it anyway. So, welcome, Dave. How'd you enjoy the videos? Nasurja says, feel like a lot is word of mouth opportunities. Yeah. Saw your video of visitor design pattern at the same time. Got into the design patterns book. Cool. It was weird. Yeah, design patterns are very useful for learning how to structure things in a way that scales well. I've found them to be quite useful lately. Wanted to thank you for your channel. Seems there are not a lot of good materials for C++. Yeah, it's definitely a very niche thing. There's a very few specific ones. Found you with your CMake stuff. Cool. I'm always wondering why my CMake videos did so well. Like I did those on a whim one day, and they seem to be my most popular videos. They're definitely not the ones I've worked hardest on or anything. So it's very interesting to me that they're like the most popular. I guess it's because it applies to such a wide variety of different types of C++ programmers, something like that. And I think I may have simplified it in a way that a lot of people resonated with, which is cool. I'm glad they're very helpful. It always surprises me that they're my most popular, because I probably put the least amount of work into that series. It was a very wing it series. Get into game dev, so keep it up, having fun. Appreciate your hustle. Thanks. Maybe you should contact with Jan Cherno, the Cherno. I'm not a big reacher out, honestly, but I've kind of thought about doing stuff like that, but I just don't even know what I'd say. I don't even know what I don't really have anything to say or ask, or I don't know. Do you think that C++ 17 and 20 standards are more of a meme for a person who's trying to build a portfolio, or should modern standards be used in building side projects? Yeah, you might as well use the modern stuff. They're all backwards compatible, so even if you're not necessarily using the new features, you can still, in your build system, use whatever your compiler supports. And, they're more stable in general. There's no reason not to use them. I suppose that's the way it goes. Yeah. For the CMake series stuff, yeah, I guess that's the way it goes. I need to do a couple more, but the ones I need to do next are kind of require a lot of work, so that's why I've been putting them off. Like I want to do one on the I did C test, and I was supposed to do the C dashboard next, and I've been putting that off for so long because I know it's going to take me like a full 2 days of work to do it right. So I've been putting it off. Kirill says, I know 3D relearns. We're looking for a porting programmer and a few other positions. That's cool. I'm pretty good at porting stuff usually. But I don't know. Depends on what their whole offer and stuff was. It always depends. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. I'm just going to call you NG Serdna. NG. What about going back to school? I keep wanting to go back to school, actually. And get a master's in something. I just can't decide on what. And I'm not 100% convinced that it's, I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to go back to school. I've been considering it for like 2 years straight. I just haven't bit the bullet and done it, I guess. What's your opinion on Yak? Is it still a thing? I don't remember what Yak is. I've seen it, heard of it. Can't remember what it is. Yet another compiler. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to do research to know. Not sure. Oh, is that where you like there's a pre-compiler in front of your compiler type of thing? I guess. It's like TypeScript is in front of JavaScript, or in front of JavaScript, that type of stuff. 3D Realms, okay. Oh, 3D relearns. They can be useful. I don't personally ever use the compilers in front of compilers, but I can see how they can be handy or useful, especially with keeping syntax clean. If you only want to do specific features or something. But I don't know. It's just not something I really do. Usually, if I want a compiler in front of my compiler, I just make a function and pass it some simple stuff, and it does all the hard work. So that's usually how I approach that. Like if I've got a really hard thing that takes a giant amount of code and I'm basically condensing it down into some smaller things, like I'll just make a function, I'll pass in whatever it is, and it'll do all the work. And that's my pre-compiler essentially. I know it's not the same thing, but that's kind of just, it seems better to me than writing a whole new compiler, to just write a function that handles it, your specific case that's bugging you. What are the different types of C++ programmers? I guess there's like embedded ones, there's game specific ones. This is not a technical answer, I'm just kind of guessing. There's definitely game programmers. They only want to know how to like code up graphics and vectors and math stuff. There's definitely embedded ones who are more worried about memory management type stuff and super fast things running on small devices with limited memory. And I'm sure there's more. I'm just not thinking of them. Good morning. How did you start getting into programming? Says Mavesna. I got started. There was two different incidences where I got started. The first one was I started at DeVry and I got forced into it with some Java and stuff. Wasn't interested at that time, but I kind of got forced into it. So I learned a tiny bit there. And then later it was I just really wanted to build games basically. And when I looked it up about how to get good at it and how to learn, it was like one of the options was computer science. It seemed to be it wasn't not required, but it's like you're going to get a really good base of everything if you take a computer science degree. So I just jumped on that. I also had a decent offer to like get half my tuition paid. So I was like, okay, that's what we're doing. And then I didn't even really know that much about what C++ was when I started, but I had my first C++ class and I got really lucky, I'll say, because I had a teacher that was awesome. The teacher was so cool. And I was just like so into it. And I was just like, I couldn't believe how cool it was, which I was probably the only person in the class thinking that, but I was like front of the class studying everything. I was that person. But it just really enthralled me, and me and the teacher got along really well. And that kind of really set me up to love C++, I think, was that first class. Just goes to show you how important like a first impression is. Best of luck. Seem really chill to hang out with. Thank you. Yeah, I try to keep it real best I can. Apparently, I don't know if I should comment on that too much, but I think a lot of people find me intimidating to hang out with. Just I don't know why. I think it's because I'm a bit of a hard head. Like I know what I want to do, and it's kind of I'm doing it. So I'm not very open to new experiences, I guess, at times. Like most people I hang out with, they'll be like, hey, let's go out to the bar, go dancing. I'm like, no, thanks. I'm just going to chill. They'll be like, you're boring. I'm like, yeah, it's not boring to me. See you later. That's what usually happens. So it's just kind of hard to find other people with the same mindset as me, I guess. But thank you. I'd probably have a lot of fun hanging out with you, a lot of you guys, because I think people that gravitate towards my channel probably, more like me. When you meet people in the real world, it's different. Most of them aren't coders. Most of them don't think logically like that. Have you ever tried different domain. I used to waste almost all my time on CG papers and pet engines like Wicked, but I find myself behind people who work on tools like Reality Cap and image generators. That's interesting. I'm trying to think how to answer that. I definitely tried different domains. I went into web development for about a year. I went into Android programming with Java for about 2 years. And ultimately, I just noped out of those and went back to C++. I've worked quite a bit with Unreal, quite a bit with Unity, but I guess by quite a bit, it's not actually quite a bit. Like, I learned enough to get some of the basics down. All right, see you, Kirill. Thanks for the questions. So I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, but I think when you have a specific project of your own that you're working on, you end up learning that stuff pretty well. So when you're just kind of messing around with other people's stuff, I feel like you don't learn as much of the not as much of the deep knowledge. At least you might learn. I don't know how to answer that exactly, or if that's entirely true. But for me, at least, I feel like when I'm working on my own things, like if I need to make my own image generator, I'm going to learn a lot more than just using somebody's library that generates images. But it's often a good idea to get started with a pre-built tool, and then if you can dig into the code later, that's cool. Yak gives you source code from BNF grammar. Oh, okay, gotcha. I forget what BNF means. What? No, I know I learned about this in school and I just totally forget. Meta syntax notation, context-free grammars. Oh yeah, okay. I had some. I forget exactly all of that, but it looks familiar. Oh, it's just like where you have like tokens of different things and you put them together. What do you do for work? Many various things, mainly coding and teaching. And some gaming stuff too. I don't have a necessarily, I guess my main job is still working on the game engine for now. You should apply at Paradox, Bethesda, Rockstar. I don't think I could. I mean, I could, but I don't think they would hire me. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I'm just not that interested, I guess, right now, really is what it comes down to. You should go back to school, get in the R&D realm, work for Sandy National Labs and whatnot. Not sure. The idea of working for a big, already established company is, it looks very nice on the resume. But if I really asked myself if it would I don't know that it would actually feel that great to me. Could pass on a resume if you need. That's okay. I haven't updated my resume in years, and I think it's kind of ugly right now. I need to refactor it before I pass it anywhere. And I don't really want to move. Like I said, I live in a small rural town, and I kind of like it. It's like just a really nice little college town, and I just don't really want to move. Most companies are like, "Oh, you got to move halfway across the world, but you can work at this big company." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really want to." Especially since my kid is going through school right now, and I'd have to uproot him and take him to a different school, and it would be a big change, which I'd be willing to do to some extent. But with these companies, there's no guarantee. Like, what if I uproot myself and move there and then I get fired in a week? I mean, we really have no control of whether a company keeps you or not, no matter how good you do. As far as you know, there could be one guy that's like, even if this is the thing with these jobs, it's like very annoying, at least to me, is if you do really well, like if you like go above and beyond and you're like the best employee ever, that's actually a case that can get you fired. It's like there's no winning in these corporate jobs. You have to get lucky. At least that's my take on it. Because like there might be like one upper guy that sees you as someone that's going to take his position, and you have no control over this. You're just trying to do the right thing and trying to be good and useful. But there's this one guy that's like has control over your position, and they can say, "Oh, he's too good. He's making me look bad because he's so good. Fire him." And it's like, I worked so hard to get here, did so well, and I got fired for it. Are you kidding me? Like, it's a bizarre world. So that's why I'm kind of scared to even ever commit to like any of these big jobs. Like for real, for real. Like, oh, this is my life now. So I'd rather, I kind of have, because of that whole thing, I basically would have to, yeah, I either have to be fully remote or I'd have to be in charge. Just, I wouldn't be able to take being an employee. It's for long. I actually did it for a while. I was in an R&D company working on a math library for a while, and it was good. Things were good. It was a great job. Made some good friends. I don't think I had any risk of getting fired there. I was making good money, but it was too far away ultimately. Like I was commuting a lot until it became permanent, and the commute was, I was basically never home. And like my home life just started falling apart. It was miserable. The job was great, but like it just destroyed my family life. My kid was getting in trouble. And I don't know, just had all these problems at home happening. And I was like, I can't do anything about it because I'm too busy with work. And I'm like, I got to make a choice. And I chose my family. That was tough. One of the toughest times of my life. Uh, any game recommendations? What do you mean, like to play or to work on? Sent you an email a couple weeks ago about a job that's fully remote, except the one time a year you get flown out. I might have missed that. I'm not sure. Not sure if I saw that email. It's really hard to tell what emails are real and what are not. In my email, there's like so many spam ones. It's crazy. So it's just really difficult to tell what's legit and not. So I might have thought it was a non-legit email. Not sure. But yeah, anything that's fully remote, I would at least be open to considering. Someone's pinging me on something. Okay. Cool. The best place to reach me and for me to know it's legit is basically through one of the paid support methods. Because I know if someone joins one of those, they're actually serious. Like the Patreon or something like that. There's a lot of stuff that just like comes in out of the blue, and I really have no idea what to think of it sometimes. And I can't spend too much time on every little thing that comes in. It's usually just a quick scan, and it's like, what's my initial feeling? Or I guess a lot of them I don't even see probably. Okay, I got to the end of the chat. I caught up. All right, I'll hang around for a couple more minutes because this drink is not empty, but sounds like I've answered most of your guys' questions. I really appreciate you guys coming to hang out. I'll send you one to the one you have listed on YouTube. Yeah, sure. What name should I be looking for? That helps if I know what name I'm looking for. It also didn't help that the fact that one of the first sponsors I ever tried to take turned out to be a scam. So that was just like, okay. After that, I was like, I see. We don't take these emails seriously. Got it. DRE. Okay. All right. I will look out for your email. All right. All right. Any last things, fellas? Appreciate you guys. Hope you do well. Music have you been listening to lately? Mostly just kind of chill wave stuff, retro wave, that kind of stuff. It depends on my mood, though. I listen to a little bit of everything. When I was young, it was a lot of hard rock, a lot of thrashy stuff. I guess that was also when I was playing music. I don't really play much anymore. But yeah, recently it's mostly when I'm coding, it's classical. If I'm gaming, I like to have some upbeat stuff, a little retro wave or heavy industrial type stuff. I try to avoid lyrics for the most part. Lyrics really don't, I don't know. I like lyrics sometimes, but not when I'm focusing on something. What do you think about Chat GPT? It's good. I like it. It's definitely not a end all be all. It's like a better Google to me. That's what I feel like Chat GPT is. It's like Google 2.0. I used it today actually. It helped me figure out some stuff. But that problem I was talking about earlier with physics player controller, it did not help me figure out that. It was just leading me through the weeds, through all kinds of nonsense on that. I had to figure that one out on my own. But generally, it's pretty good. I like it. I use it over Google by default. Listen to Stealth by Stages. Okay, I'll have to check them out. Have you ever thought about updating your CMake tutorial? Yeah, I started doing it. I redid episode 2. I might redo some other ones at some point, but I guess I'm kind of doing it on a case-by-case basis. I'm definitely way more advanced with CMake. I have a way better understanding of CMake now than I did back when I made those. So I could definitely do a better job, but I don't know. I'm trying to find ones where I could definitely improve them. Like if I just remake it and it's like barely better, it's not quite worth it, I don't think. But if I can remake it and it's way better, then it's worth it. So I feel like I could do that with episode 2. So I just completely redid it, and I think it's better. People seem to like it. Seems to be better at teaching CMake and how it ties in with C++. Because I was really, like I said, I was winging it. I was fumbling through that sometimes, as you could tell. I typoed things and had to edit it in to make it look like it was a clever lesson and stuff like that. That was not on purpose. I was like, oh God, I really don't want to re-record this. Let me just make some edits and try to make it passable. So that's the way it is sometimes, because it's like I have a limited time to do the video I'm working on. And if I totally botch a recording, I either have to find a way to salvage it or re-record. And there's times I can't even tell you guys how many botched videos I have that just never came out. It's probably in the hundreds. There's so many that I've started going, and then when I'm like halfway through, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so convoluted and confusing. There's no way I can release this. So I don't. There's a bunch of those. And who knows? Maybe some of them were better than I thought. I don't really know. But I try to only put out the better ones. It's just the way it goes, and especially when you do them like this. I don't really script stuff. I've started to script videos a little bit more. That's actually a really good idea, but in the past I did not. It was always wing it. And I guess that's just my style. Always been kind of a wing it person. All right, fellas. All right, Stealth and Moth. I'll check those out. I'm going to put them in a notepad right now so I don't forget. Check them out. Look for your email. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate any and all support. Try to do some cool stuff for this new year. Good luck with all your projects and coding. Hope you found this useful. Glad I could finally sit down and do the 10K live stream. Better late than never. Better late than never. All right, fellas. Take it easy. Have a good evening or morning. See you around.